The seventh Saturday of the college football season is upon us, and we enter it with only 12 undefeated teams left on the FBS level, and two of them are meeting in Eugene, Oregon tonight. And I've got the complimentary play for that game between Ohio State and Oregon among your free plays coming up here on this video report. Hi, everyone. Al DeMarco here, General Manager at DeMarcoSports.com. And here on the video report, what I like to call the best of the worst selections, because these are the plays which, after narrowing down the busy Saturday card, I've determined for one reason or another they aren't quite good enough to be my premium selection. Well, I've hit the top play here on the video report 5 of the past 6 Saturdays. Last Saturday, it was Washington getting the job done against Michigan. Today, it's going to be the BYU Arizona game. More importantly, over on DeMarcoSports.com, where I have cashed in 4 of the past 5 Saturdays with my best bet selection. And I have now won 5 of my last 6 football plays, NFL and college football combined, over the past week. Today, I am once again going to be releasing my second highest rated play of my career. And it's Raise the Bar 20 dime winner number 4 in a row. And it's my revenge lock of the year. It's one of your 13 games that is kicking off at 3:30 Eastern Time. And just like last Saturday's 20 dime winner on Indiana over Northwestern, and just like Sunday's 20 dime winner on the Packers getting the job done against the Rams in LA, and just like Thursday's winner on the 49ers easily defeating Seattle, it is going to be the half price play of the day using coupon code HALF. And before I get to your complimentary plays, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the hottest handicapper over at DeMarcoSports.com, the guy who has won $10 bettors more money than anybody else in football since the start of last season, and that would be my good friend Rick Torino. Because once again, he has a 100 dime max wager. And FYI, if you haven't been following, Rick has made $10 bettors since the start of last season in college and NFL, $16,120. That's wins minus losses minus the big, $16,120. He is going today for college football winner number 9 out of 10 on the short term, but more importantly, it's the 27th 100 dime all in college max wager release since he joined the site 2.5 years ago. It's his dog of the month. It's a different game than I have, but again, it's one of these games that is kicking off at 3:30 Eastern Time. He is 23-5 lifetime with college football max wager releases, including 21-5 with those 100 dime plays, 7-1 last year, 2-0 this season. And again, it's available for over half price off. You'll see the coupon available over on DeMarcoSports.com. And Jesus, what can I say? The guy's made more money than anybody else. 2-0 sweep last weekend, cashed in again with Arizona State last night, and he's going for winning day number 20 out of 28 in all sports combined. And that's why he's won more money than anybody else for football bettors over at DeMarcoSports.com. So with all that, oh, by the way, if you have not yet taken advantage of the 2-day free all access pass, why not? You can get my play, you can get Rick's play, and all the other plays of all the handicappers for free today and any other day you choose. You can pick the 2 days. If you've never taken advantage of the free 2-day all access pass, you see it advertised here at the bottom of the page, do so now. You have nothing to lose because it is free over at DeMarcoSports.com. It's my way of giving you an opportunity to sample all the handicappers' picks and get their flavors, because everybody does things differently. And free means free. There are no strings attached. It costs you nothing to sample everybody's wares. Okay, with that being said, let's take a look at today's games. First one is going to be BYU. This is an interesting line. It opened at 3.5. It moved all the way up to 5. Now it's back down to 3.5. Most places have it at 3. I like the fact that BYU is coming off a bye in this situation. I think they have an inherent advantage as well, playing in Provo and altitude. Their last game was a 34-28 win at Baylor, where they jumped out to the early lead and never really were threatened by the Bears. They're 5-0 straight up and against the spread, become bowl eligible, obviously, with a win. Only undefeated team in the Big 12. Who would have thought that? Jake Retzlaff, their quarterback, has really been a one-man gang in terms of their offense, completing 61% of his passes, 12 touchdowns, 241 yards passing per game. He's also their leading rusher. That's the downside because he's accounted for 71% of BYU's total offensive yards. Now, BYU, though, today, a team that has started 5 different running backs in 5 games, is expected to get their top running back, LJ Martin, their starter last year, who averaged 4.8 yards per carry, and 2 of their top reserve backs as well. So I think that is a huge bonus for BYU, taking some of the pressure off of Retzlaff, making that offense less one-dimensional. Arizona, of course, is coming off a 28-22 home loss to Texas Tech last Saturday, a game they really weren't that competitive. They had to settle for 5 field goals in the red zone. They were down 18-3 at halftime. You look at the final box score, they outgained Texas Tech 422-331, but again, 5 field goals, and they lost 2 starting members of their secondary to injuries, so they'll be down in terms of their pass defense here. This is a BYU team that has a very strong pass rush. They're only giving up 15.8 points a game. I think this is a great spot to take BYU. And again, I'm buying down that half point if that line is anywhere between 3 and 4.5. And with the variations in that line, it just goes to show you again why it's so important to have a multiple accounts, at least 2 accounts at 2 different sports books. The 2 big sports books, and I don't have to tell you their names, they control 68% of the U.S. betting market, reportedly, meaning in the 38 states where it's legal to bet here in the United States at these books, 68% of the U.S. bettors play at those books. There are wide variations you will find from 1 to 1.5 points at those books, and it pays off to have accounts at multiple books, depending on whether you're at the favorite or betting the underdog. It's just a wise investment strategy. Now, your next game, and I'm running these in the order that I like these games. I like Rutgers to bounce back from that loss last week at Nebraska, a game that was played in really swirling winds and extreme heat. It was like 97 degrees in Lincoln for that contest at home, minus the 2.5 against Wisconsin. Did Wisconsin post a big win last week? Yeah, 52-6 at home. But they beat Purdue, a team that has just fallen apart. In fact, Purdue, after their previous loss, fired their offensive coordinator. This team is awful. So I somewhat discount the Badgers' win because remember, this is a team that before beating Purdue had lost at USC 38-21, had been bludgeoned at home by Alabama 42-10. Their only wins before beating Purdue had come against Western Michigan and South Dakota. So Rutgers had been undefeated before that 14-7 loss at Nebraska, a game in which they couldn't get their ground game going, and that's their bread and butter, a game in which they only had 264 yards, a game in which they were combined 4 for 20 on 3rd and 4th down opportunities. I think they rebound here, strong defense. I think they control the clock with their ground game, and I like them minus the 2.5 points in that spot. I'm going to go with Army. And I know it's a big number, minus 26.5 points against UAB, but the Blazers are an awful team. And FYI, Army is one of only 5 teams in FBS that is undefeated against the spread. And in case you're wondering, the others, BYU, Eastern Michigan, Marshall, and Pittsburgh, right? So Army is coming off that 49-7 win, I believe, at Temple. They get to become bowl eligible with a win today as well. This is a line that opened at 18.5, and it's 26-26.5 the last time I checked. They've already beaten Rice at home by 23, Florida Atlantic by 21 in their FBS wins. Number 1 still in the nation in rushing, averaging 361 yards and nearly 7 yards per carry, even though they've opened up their offense a little more this year. Number 1 in red zone defense as well, as opponents have only had 9 opportunities and scored on 4 of them. And that sounds like an absurd number, but remember, because they control the clock and the time of possession so much, opponents don't get that many scoring opportunities, which is also somewhat problematic when you're asking Army to cover big numbers because they don't have as many scoring opportunities. But at the flip side, because they've opened up their offense more, it gives them more scoring opportunities this year, too. But again, this all comes back to how bad UAB is. You know, UAB is coached by Trent Dilfer, who may be just one of the worst coaching hires in the past couple of years. They opened up by beating an FCS squad in Alcorn State. They lost to UL Monroe by 26, Arkansas by 10. I don't know how they managed to do that. And they're coming off home losses to Navy 41 to 18, which I think is a blueprint for Army here when you think that they lost to Navy by that big of a score. They just got drilled at home by Tulane 71 to 20. Their run defense gives up 228 yards a game and over 5 yards a carry. That's 126 in FBS standings. Uh, they gave up 227 yards to Navy on the ground, 317 to Tulane, 266 to Arkansas, 209 to UL Monroe. I think Army can run through them all day long. Your next game, I'm going to go with Kansas State, minus the 3.5 at Colorado. Both teams are 4-1. Now, the Wildcats have not performed well on the road. Barely got by Tulane, and then, of course, they had that total collapse at BYU. You look at that score against BYU, a game they lost 38-9. I talked about it a couple of weeks ago. That was a game in which they allowed 28 points to BYU in a 5-minute span because of 3 turnovers and a punt return. Statistically, they dominated the game. It's just they gave away the game to BYU in that 5-minute span. Now, they rebounded with a 42-20 rout of Oklahoma State last week at home. Avery Johnson is still going through growing pains. Their starting quarterback, he's not real experienced, but he probably had his best game last week. 60 yards rushing, 259 yards passing, 5 total touchdowns in the game. But the key here is Kansas State's ability to run the ball. Number 7 in the nation in terms of their ground attack, 252 yards a game, nearly 7 yards a carry. And I think they're going to be able to run the ball effectively against Colorado. And the longer they keep Colorado's offense off the field, the better it is for Kansas State. And Colorado, of course, is returning after that 48-21 win at Central Florida and coming off a bye. So that definitely plays to the Buffalo's advantage. However, when you think about Colorado's last home game, they need that Hail Mary pass to force overtime against Baylor, and they did win that game. But you have a Kansas State team that has a very strong pass rush. They're tied for the Big 12 lead with 12 sacks. You have a Kansas State team that is bigger and stronger in the trenches, both offense and defensively, than Colorado. And you have a Colorado team that defensively is allowing nearly 27 points a game in their Power 4 games, which came against Central Florida, Baylor, and Nebraska. So I'm willing to lay the 3.5 points with Kansas State here in a prove me game for a team that has not played well on the road in the conference over the past couple of years, but I think they're the more well-rounded team here. So I'm going to go with Kansas State laying the 3.5, and I'm going to buy down the half point again between 3 and 4.5 on Kansas State. Now, I like Kansas State equally with Ohio State. And to be honest, I kind of give the Buckeyes a slight edge here. Now, granted, Big Ten teams traveling multiple time zones this year are 1-8 straight up. The only winner, Indiana at UCLA. And this is Ohio State's first trip West Coast wise since 2013 in regular season play. And this is the first real test for the Bucks this season. Both teams are 5-0, as I mentioned at the top of this report. The Buckeyes have, been impressive, scoring at least 35 points in each game. Their second road game, their first was 38-7 at Michigan State. They're coming off the 35-7 home rout of Iowa. I don't know what to make of Oregon. Offensively, they have all the pieces there with Dylan Gabriel and perhaps the best wide receiver group in the nation, but they just haven't put it all together at times. I keep thinking about how this team struggled early in the season. And perhaps their most impressive win was against Oregon State. And I don't know how impressive that win really was in retrospect. So I think Ohio State will be able to put the pressure on Dylan Gabriel because that Oregon offensive line is not as good as it was a year ago when it was protecting Bo Nix. Yet both quarterbacks are very mobile. Remember, Oregon last year, their offensive line gave up 5 sacks the entire season. It's already given up 7 sacks this year. Last year, Bo Nix was only pressured on like a little under 16% of his dropbacks for the year. And Dylan Gabriel's been pressured on 23% of his dropbacks so far this season. So it's going to come down to whether or not Ohio State can generate enough pressure to keep Dylan Gabriel in the pocket because he's such a damn good passer when he's moving and he's got that bevy of good wide receivers to rely on, and whether Ohio State can move the ball as well, because Oregon's defense is good. I also like the fact that Ohio State has a veteran quarterback in Will Howard, a couple of great wide receivers that Howard has to work with as well. So I'm going to go with Ohio State here. And it's about time that Ryan Day wins a big game on the road, don't you think? And again, 3.5 points. I'm going to buy down on Ohio State. So those are your selections. And again, let's recap them in order, just like I ran them. Your top play, as I go for number 6 out of 7 here on Saturdays, is going to be BYU. Your next one is going to be Rutgers, followed by Army. And then it's going to be Kansas State and Ohio State. I lean a little more toward Ohio State, but they're pretty well damn even. And that's going to be your Saturday recap. Good luck, everybody, and talk to you again soon.